everyone, and welcome to Martin's Home and Garden's Houseplant of the Week. This week we're pretty excited because we've chosen a plant that is called strawberry begonia. This plant is not a strawberry or a begonia, which is kind of confusing, but that's how common names often are. Its Latin name is Saxifraga stolifera, and what that means basically is that it's in the family Saxifragaceae, and it gives off little runners, which is what the last part of the Latin name means. So runners are these little baby plants, which is what they're called more commonly within like the houseplant community. So you've got your mother plant and you've got your little baby plant. And this is really interesting because it, creates a whole new plant for you rather than like giving off seeds or anything. You just get your own little plant. Other really popular plants that do this, give off runners and stuff like that, are like spider plant and strawberry plant. So if you really like the idea of a spider plant because you can take off the little babies and give them to all your friends, and then you've all got this fabulous plant from one plant, but you want to be a little bit different, you can use a strawberry begonia. These plants are native to like Japan, China, Korea, but over there, they use them for like a culinary or herbal remedy kind of plant. Whereas here we use them for the cute foliage and the little babies that we have here. What's actually interesting about these plants is that they are a zone 6 through 9. So we could actually grow them outside in Tennessee because we are a zone 7 here. So we're right in the optimal growing point for them. What this means for us, if we're going to keep them as houseplants, though, is that in the winter we need their temperatures to be lower or they're not going to be as happy. What that temperature range would actually be is about 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And most people don't keep their houses that cold. If you do, that's a little worrying or worrisome. But what this also could be used for is to put it outside, like on a covered porch in the winter, which will hopefully induce some flowering in the next season and keep your plant really happy. These plants only live for a few years, so about 3 years on average, so they could live longer or they could live less, but its whole purpose in life is to give you these little runners. So once it has, if you're not cutting off the runners and giving them to people, it thinks that it's completed its job and its life cycle is done. So pruning is kind of a necessity with these plants. So making sure that you cut off the runners and you give them to your friends, kind of like this, to where everybody gets a new plant, is kind of cool. For potting soil for these plants, you can really just use a standard potting mix. Something that has good drainage, maybe some perlite, peat, something like that, just to allow for good aeration in the plant and also really good nutrients. These plants are pretty simple, so they'll kind of do anything that you give them, but using just a standard potting mix is really good for these. They do flower, and one stem of flowers usually contains about 30 different flowers. Which is pretty interesting, and the flowers are like white with a little bit of pink on them. Super cute. We'll post a picture probably whenever this one flowers, because they're really pretty actually, even though they're known for their foliage and not their flowers. With the flower, these plants stay pretty compact, and the flower is actually the only thing that gives it any height when it gets like its biggest, which is about 10 inches. So since these plants have a short life cycle, they do stay pretty small. So this is about as big as they're going to get. So if you're looking for something that is small and will do pretty well for a few years and give you these little babies, this plant's awesome. They don't like to be overwatered. They're very prone to root rot. So making sure that you allow them to not dry out completely, but dry out a good bit in between watering is pretty essential to the growth of these plants. Another important thing is to make sure that this plant has drainage holes, or all that water is just going to sit at the bottom and your plant's going to get root rot and it's going to die. So make sure that whatever pot it's in has drainage holes in order to properly grow. So since we have a little runner that actually fell off this morning, what we're going to do is we're going to pot one up to show you guys how to propagate these properly. So I just have like a small little pot. We have a ton of these here, so I'm using that. But you can really use anything that's pretty small to propagate your plant. So what I like to do is I like to take something called rooting powder. It's a naturally occurring plant hormone called auxin, which signals to the plant to send out a bunch of roots. It's awesome. It's super cheap too. We have some here. It helps to ensure that your propagations are going to stick. So I'm not going to use very much of this. I'm just going to pour a little bit into the lid. And then since this little runner already has a few roots, I'm not going to like completely coat the plant in the rooting hormone. I'm just going to take it and dip it in a little bit and just get it on like the roots around where the plant just came off of its little mama plant. So I'm going to take this little end of the plant, make a little hole right here like you would any other plant, and just pinch it down in there to where it's secure. And you've got a new little plant. You can keep it for yourself or give it to your friends or whatever you want to do. But that is the fun of these plants, and we've had a lot of fun talking about them this week. So come on in and get a strawberry begonia. We've got a bunch, and we would love to see you. Happy spring, y'all.